Today, we are talking about teenagers, hypothyroidism, and Hashimoto's with Dr. David Bilstrom. Dr. David Bilstrom is a quadruple board certified physician and a nationally recognized expert in functional and regenerative medicine. He spent nearly 30 years helping patients reverse autoimmune disease by treating the root causes, not just the symptoms. He is especially passionate about helping kids and teens reset their health early so they can prevent chronic illness later in life. And he has shown that by supporting the body's natural systems, it is possible to change the trajectory of autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's for this generation and the next. Welcome, Dr. Bilstrom. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm trying to change the way that autoimmune disease is dealt with worldwide. And a relatively small goal, but it's gonna take me a while, I think. Fortunately, I'm already 1,000 years old, so I got lots more time to go here. But yeah, and so we're trying to teach people that we know where autoimmune disease comes from, including Hashimoto's. And I gotta say, Hashimoto's is probably my favorite autoimmune disease to reverse. Kind of right up there with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, maybe a little more fun than autism. And then all the other ones are kind of like super fun, but I love Hashimoto's reversal. So, but I think Hashimoto's is a great example of autoimmune disease in general. But in addition to telling people, hey, the science is very clear, kind of like your podcast mentions, non-woo, right? This is the science. This is the science. The science is very clear about why people get autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's, but also very clear how we can reverse the process. And it's so important to reverse the process and try to make it go away completely if we can, because what drives one autoimmune disease drives other autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
And truly, the big picture is it's not like hundreds of different autoimmune diseases out there. It's really one disease that can attack any body part. And so I've seen women in their teens with 6 autoimmune diseases already. I've seen 8-year-olds with 4 autoimmune diseases already. And to your point, though, we can fix this stuff early enough, like ideally lock the system in place by age 19 is optimal. We really prevent all kinds of disease as an adult, whether it's depression, anxiety, cancer, anything you don't want by setting the system. But also we can do that before someone conceives a child. We're actually passing on better health the next 6 to 8 generations, which is really powerful for the individual, but then really powerful for their future and then even future generations.
If a parent is listening, what would they be looking for in their daughter? And I'm assuming sons too, but when I talk about Hashimoto's, I talk about puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause. So, so what symptoms would a parent be looking for? And then what's the first action they should take?
Yeah, so a really big driver of all autoimmune disease, including Hashimoto's, and one of the 2 big reasons why women get 80% of all autoimmune disease is a hormone imbalance called estrogen dominance, where women has too much estrogen compared to progesterone. Now, both estrogen and progesterone, vitally important. Every cell in the female body has receptors for that, male body as well. So it's really important, but it's a great example how balance is so important for the body, including hormone imbalance. So sometimes it's not so much what this hormone is doing, that hormone is doing individually. It's, well, how do they compare to each other? So I call this estrogen dominance the most dangerous disease for women, because truly, if you look at like the top 10 reasons why women die, this estrogen dominance is probably a part of about 90% of all that. Not
Wow.
just cancer, not just autoimmune disease, but heart attack, stroke, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, dementia, all these kind of things are all tied into this thing. So how estrogen dominance looks in a woman, typically one of the big ways is hormonal menstrual issues. So if any woman, including, let's say, somebody who just started their cycles in their teenage years, for example, if they have bad flows, bad cramps, premenstrual syndrome, ovarian cyst, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, endometriosis, fibrocystic breast disease, and then this is even tied into infertility. Any of those hormonal menstrual things, that person's got estrogen dominance. And you look at that, and a few generations ago, that was kind of unusual. But now it's like almost like, well, what woman doesn't have at least one of those, right? Or multiple runs, right? Now, the other thing it shows up as, because estrogen is a hormone that revs the system, and most hormones rev the system. Estrogen revs the system, progesterone calms the system. So estrogen dominance also shows up as excessive worry, anxiety. Like people will say, I'm just a worrier. I'm just feel so anxious, but also panic attacks. And then because the brain won't shut down because you got the rev without calm, this can impact sleep negatively. Geez, I just can't shut my brain down. I'm thinking about stuff all the time. Any of the rev without calm stuff is also estrogen dominance. So this stuff, estrogen dominance, looks like this: rev without calm, hormonal menstrual, long before it turns into Hashimoto's and autoimmune disease. So we see these things coming, but people don't know what these symptoms tell us. They don't know it's estrogen dominance. They don't know where it's going to go, including women with estrogen dominance before menopause have not twice the risk of breast cancer as anybody else, not 3 times, not 4 times the risk, has a 5.4 times greater risk of breast cancer before menopause, and a 10 times greater risk of dying of a malignant cancer, the kind that start one place and metastasize, terrible ones, 10 times greater risk of dying of malignant cancer their entire lifetime. Yuck. Above and beyond, wow, this is one of the big reasons why 80% of people that get autoimmune disease are women. And so you see this stuff coming, and I say, well, women need to know this. Parents need to know this about their female, daughters entering the reproductive years, because it's not just crummy stuff already, but it's like, ooh, we have this beautiful flag that goes up that we need to fix this, because nobody needs the rev without calm stuff. That all stinks. Nobody needs the hormonal menstrual thing. That stinks. But we don't need it to develop into this stuff. But once we know sort of what this stuff is telling us, we're like, oh, okay, let's go fix it. Now, typically that's not the way that standard, more traditional allopathic medicine does it. Oh, you got all these hormonal menstrual things. Well, let's put you on birth control pills. They're estrogen based, so they make it worse. Well, let's put you on some Xanax or some Ambien. That'll take care of your anxiety, your insomnia. And it's like, well, okay, you feel less anxious. That's cool. You sleep better. Well, that's cool. But you missed this beautiful opportunity to fix it and prevent that cancer and prevent that autoimmune disease. And so this is like great stuff to know, I think, because we're like, hey, let's stop this Hashimoto's before it even starts, especially if you have a parent with an autoimmune disease already. Because really all autoimmune disease is really one disease that just shows up in different people different ways. It'll show up in different ways in different people in the same family, right? And so what they see is, for example, rheumatoid arthritis is very connected with Hashimoto's. So you like to get rid of Hashimoto's so you don't develop rheumatoid. But let's say a parent has rheumatoid. Well, their child has a 5.4 times greater risk of developing type 1 diabetes, the kind that require the insulin shots and pumps. So if we see a parent with an autoimmune disease, we love to see the children. Okay. But
Is that for male and female children?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Now, also what may happen is maybe the child develops the type 1 diabetes or the Hashimoto's first before the parent even gets the rheumatoid, right? And so you're like, well, if we see a kid with autoimmune, we like to see the parents too, because then let's prevent them from getting that. And that would go a long way also, whether you're coming at it from one direction or the other, really helping women prevent breast cancer, which I'm also so passionate about, because nobody talks about preventing breast cancer. All you ever hear, like the entire breast cancer awareness month, early detection, early detection, early detection. And I sit there. Now I've made videos about this. I don't just sit there and listen. I sit there and I go, I gotta do, tell us, is you're sitting there telling everybody, a supposed expert, that you're just going to not do anything at all to prevent a woman from getting breast cancer. Nothing at all. You're just going to sit there and wait until she gets it. And then, all right, we detected it. We did what we're supposed to. And I'm like, oh, no. So, but this is lovely, because what we're talking about with this Hashimoto's is if you're preventing it or you're reversing it, you're also doing your due diligence to prevent other autoimmune disease and breast cancer.
Right. So actually, I have an episode on estrogen dominance, and it's one of my most popular episodes. I believe it's episode 69. And I talk about like environmental toxins, all the things that we put on our skin, and then liver health. Is that where you go with your patients, or do you have a different approach?
There are very specific things that tend to create autoimmune disease. A big one for all stuff happens to be the gut. Right, the gut's such a central mechanism for anything, so if you're seeing somebody with brainy stuff, and all brainy stuff is just brain stuff. It's all kind of the same thing, just shows up differently. A little bit like autoimmune disease. Well, it can show up different body parts, right? Well, brain stuff shows up different ways, different people. It's all just brain stuff. So you got brain stuff. First thing I'm thinking about, what's going on in the gut. There's such a big gut brain connection. Well, there's also a huge skin gut connection. Hey, you got some skin stuff? 95% of the time I'm thinking, what's going on with your gut? 80% of the immune system surrounds the gut. You got like immune system stuff. I'm thinking, what's going on with the gut? Now, when the gut gets thrown off, it's hard to detoxify. And when you make a healthy new hormone like estrogen, like estradiol, let's say, one of the 3 estrogens that women might make during their lifetime, estradiol is great because hormones keep away inflammation, keep away disease by doing that. So estradiol prevents heart attacks and strokes. It prevents cataracts and macular degeneration, prevents osteoporosis. The gut needs it. It prevents fine lines and wrinkles on the skin. Lovely hormone. But you make estradiol and it does this work. But once this gets kind of circulating the system for a while, it gets ding, gets beat up. Now it's irritating and toxic. So it's not like the very first menstrual cycle of a woman. Estrogen is made by the ovaries. The ovaries go, okay, I'm done. I'm done for the rest of my life. Okay, I did my. It's like, no, no, no. Now we're going to get rid of the old toxic stuff because it's going to turn that way. But you got to keep making the new healthy stuff, right? Ideally, for a long, long time. So you dump old toxic things, toxins in general, kind of like to your point, but toxic estrogen in the gut, so you can poop them in the toilet because most toxins have to leave through pooping. But if you get the leaky gut, antibiotics, stress, metformin, birth control pills, all these other things that create this leaky gut, infections, well, you can't get rid of the old toxic estrogens and they reactivate and reabsorb back in the bloodstream and start building over time. Now, before that even typically happens is we live in a very stressful world, right? And you're talking about emotional stress, including young people. You know, I might say to parents with a child with rheumatoid arthritis and they're like 5, 6 years of age. And I talk about the stress hormone cortisol. And I say, well, children's lives are very stressful. And they're like, what are you talking about? That's a 6-year-old stress in their life. And I'm like, well, now I'm 1,000 years old, right? So this is very old news. But when I was a kindergartner, if you were a good napper and you played well in the playground, A+ student.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I was a good napper and played well. And so I started out pretty decent there. I was like, all right, I can nap and I can play nicely with others. But nowadays it's like, okay, 3 years of age, let's learn to read. Let's start doing some math. Okay, come on, get to school here now. Come on now. No napping. We got, it's just even that, right? Is like that. But then again, kind of to your point, we live in a really toxic world. We're full of environmental toxins. That's terribly physically stressing to the system, right? Disrupted guts because of early recurrent use of antibiotics. Well, now you got a disrupted gut. That's physical stress. Vitamin deficiencies because the gut's disrupted. You can't get nutrients out of your food. Well, all these physical stressors, vitamin deficiencies, gut disruption, toxins, those are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, month after month stressor to the system. So they kick up the stress hormone cortisol and get stuck in the stress mode. And we never heal well or at all when we're stuck in the stress mode. There's fight or flight mode, life or death mode. There's a bear chasing me, trying to kill me mode, you know? And so the hormone production cascade that makes cortisol, it's called the steroidogenic hormone production cascade, actually starts with a compound made by the liver called cholesterol. We'd be dead without cholesterol. It's a bad name, but it really shouldn't. We'd be dead without it. So from cholesterol comes a very important hormone, pregnenolone. They call it the mother hormone. So then from pregnenolone, here comes DHEA, keeps away joint pain, heart attacks and strokes, keeps your brain sharp, bone strong. Here's estradiol, here's estrone, estrogens, here's testosterone, here's progesterone, all these important hormones, same production cascade. But what happens when cortisol gets stuck in the stress mode is cholesterol will tend to shunt towards cortisol production. And over time, these other hormones, part of the same hormone production cascade, aren't being made. The very first one that drops is progesterone. So typically, before the estrogens ever start rising, progesterone starts dropping because stress, physical, emotional, spiritual, even by the time a woman starts her menstrual cycles, that cortisol oftentimes is stuck. progesterone's going to be dropping, estrogen rises, and that's kind of that double whammy. And so one of the hallmarks is fixing the gut, fix the leaky gut so that you stop accumulating old toxic estrogens. Maybe use something to help run detox pathways like fully methylated B vitamins, the supplement DIM, broccoli extract, that helps with detox. Create that calm, get rid of physical stressors, including these infections that drive all autoimmune disease. And then progesterone, the cortisol goes, oh, that feels so nice. Oh, thank you. And then progesterone production comes up and the estrogen dominance is taken care of. Menstrual hormonal stuff goes away because now you got this lovely calming hormone without this excessive revving hormone. Sleep like a baby, super chill, which always feels nice. But then also when that happens, you're sleeping like a baby, you're super chill, and these hormonal menstrual things go away. You know, you took care of, well, you always want to check blood tests. I love the blood test, but you know by the symptom control that you really got a handle on this estrogen dominance. And then you really got a handle on what we need to do to reverse Hashimoto's if it's already there, or prevent Hashimoto's, other autoimmune disease, and cancer from coming down the line.
All right. Wow. So that was a lot. So I'm taking away like the two biggest things to look at is stress, and we're talking body, mind, spirit, diet, environment. They can all have stressors. So we're looking at stress and we're looking at the gut.
Yeah.
And those are the most important things to do for estrogen dominance. And helping your estrogen dominance is the most important thing that you can do for prevention of tons and tons of things, including Hashimoto's. Did I summarize that?
That
Okay.
is beautiful. Now, this is also why we use progesterone quite a bit, prescription medicine, bioidentical progesterone. We'll do the blood test. We see that progesterone's tanked. We'll see that estrogens are either, okay, or they started to rise already. And people aren't sleeping. They're anxious. They got panic attacks, maybe hormonal menstrual stuff. But one of the things we'll do is put them on progesterone. Now it's temporary because they can make it on their own eventually, like I just kind of pointed out. But by doing that and putting them on the right dose, within 2 days, usually, we kind of say 5, but usually it's within 2 days, you'll be sleeping like a baby. You'll be so calm. Wow, does your body like that? And anything we do to create calm, whether it's meditation or getting out in nature or whatever, is going to help the body be put in a position to fix anything, all this stuff. And then it's so much easier to reset cortisol because cortisol has all these hormone friends, but almost all of them rev. Well, if cortisol doesn't have its good friend progesterone, like where's it going to find calm? It's kind of like if all your friends in your neighborhood that you hang out with are all like wired, you could be wired too. But if you all have these chill friends, you're like, oh, I love being around my friends. They just bring me down to earth. And so and I was like, well, that's what the people with there's no progesterone, cortisol's going, oh man, how am I going to find calm? Give some progesterone temporarily. Oh, that's lovely. Well, then, boy, does that allow the body to get in this position fast and start turning all this stuff around. Eventually, start making progesterone on your own. You don't need the progesterone. You're good to go. That kind of a thing.
So I usually hear about hormone testing as people are entering menopause. Are you saying you actually do hormone testing and progesterone in teenagers?
Yep. Every person that has an autoimmune disease, because hormone deficiency or imbalances drive it in everybody. So I'll check, um, well, DHEA, pregnenolone, estradiol, estrone, the two estrogens, progesterone, total and free testosterone, um, and a protein called sex hormone binding globulin that binds up hormones, ideally to protect us from excess. So if you get these high estrogens, the body tries to bind them up to prevent them from hurting us in the situation. The body's so smart. And it kind of tells us how much the body's trying to bind up something that's toxic to the system based on the level of that sex hormone binding globulin. I'll check that on everybody. As long as the woman started her menstrual cycles, not before.
Now, I've heard that teenage boys, due to stress and dietary things and environmental toxins, they're also having more and more estrogen. Do you do the same testing for boys, whether or not they have Hashimoto's, or how do you approach the boys in your practice?
Yeah, once they reach puberty, we check all those hormones as well. You're right, because we see this really funky thing where women are losing estrogen and gaining testosterone. More like in the 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe 40s and 50s. And guys are losing testosterone but building estrogen.
Yeah.
And this is where at least 10% of breast cancer is actually in men nowadays. Um, and those hormone balances drive tons of stuff, including testosterone deficiency. You know, ideally you want to be 800 to 1100 in a guy. A few couple generations ago, 70-year-old might be like 680. But now I see so many 18 and 20-year-old men with testosterone under 200.
Oh my
They
goodness.
are feeling terrible, as you can imagine. For women, the hormones are a lot more, well, women are kind of more complex than men. Men are kind of a bunch of cavemen walking around going ugh and grunting a lot. So women have this hormone symphony that's very important, right? But very challenging to stay really good. And this is one reason why when you go check hormones in women, whether they have, you know, Hashimoto's, autoimmune disease, other kind of things, or it runs in the family, you want to take a look at the entire hormone symphony all at the same time. Because you got to look at everybody in the symphony and see who's going to be messing people up, who's already messing people up. Where in guys, it's kind of like, okay, dude, do you have testosterone? If you don't, you're probably going to be a grumpy old man, even if you're a 22-year-old or a 30-year-old. You're not old, but you are a grumpy old man already. So a funny thing that happens in my clinic all the time. So the health questionnaire I ask people to fill out, one is irritability, along with, you know, memory, concentration, sleep quality, energy, all these kind of things. So a guy will come in because his wife told me he had to. Okay. And they're sitting there and I go, oh, you know, here, sir, you rated irritability at 1 to 10, 10 is the worst. You rated a 2. And the wife goes, a 2? And he's like, what? I'm not a 2. And she's like, oh my gosh, a 2. Well, you're an 8 to 9, if anything. He's like, really? Like, yeah, we got to fix that because this isn't going well for you and your relationship here.
No kidding. Yeah. When do you test? Like in a female cycle, is there a specific week of her cycle? And then guys, when would you test?
So guys, anytime, because they don't tend to cycle like women do. But for women, when you want to really get a good look at estrogens and progesterone and that hormone symphony, day 19 to 21 of the cycle, with the first day of the flow being day 1. Now, people have crazy bad timing of their cycles. You know, you go, oh, you cycle every 17 days. Okay, so we're like, okay, we know you got estrogen dominance. We know your whole symphony is messed up. So we're like, okay, well, I tell you what, let's fix it a little bit first because we really don't have this great window of opportunity to look at those things. We'll fix stuff. We'll start fixing the gut. We'll start getting rid of the infections that have already gotten into your thyroid, driving the Hashimoto's, or getting into your joints, driving the rheumatoid arthritis. We'll start getting rid of the infections. I use this product out of Canada that's like an absolute game changer to get rid of the infections that drive autoimmune disease. And they go, oh, I'm starting to feel better. Oh, okay, I got this stuff going on. The TPO antibodies and the thyroglobulin antibodies are starting to drop. You know, hey, your TPOs are 480, the first blood test, and the second blood test are down to 240, and your thyroglobulins are 84. Now they're down to 53. Okay, we got you on the right track. Now the cycles kind of get to where they're supposed to. You know, hey, my cycles are back to 28 days, 30 days. Okay, so we know you were worse before, but let's go ahead. Now we'll get a really close look at estrogen and progesterone. Do we need to start that dim? Because you're still having high estrogen. Maybe they haven't totally normalized yet. You know, other kind of things like that. But you fix the bottom line, even you can't do the test you might want to. And sometimes like 70% of all autism is one particular autoimmune disease. And so ideally in that population, I love to run blood tests, but sometimes the parents look at me and they had a blood test a couple of years before and they go, please don't ask us to do a blood test. Oh, it was such a tragedy. Oh my gosh. And I go, that's okay. Don't worry. The science is very clear where this stuff comes from. We'll start getting rid of things. And as things kind of quiet down, we're on the right track. And we say, okay, you know, what loose ends do we need to kind of, you know, take care of in order to get you over this final hump? Hey, what do you think about a blood test now? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Or, hey, we got the cycles in a better place. Let's do a blood test and really look closely at that day 19 to 21. So we see if we got what we have to fine tune still to get over that final hump, set the system in a good place, ideally by age 19 or before conceiving a child, so that we can pass on, you know, cleaner epigenetics, cleaner health to the next 6 to 8 generations.
So we talked about women. and you're going to do progesterone and calm everything down. What about a guy, Hashimoto's, or just increased estrogen, decreased testosterone? Do you start out with, I've heard like weightlifting can build testosterone, or do you start out with supplementing?
Oh, it's so easy to
Okay.
do. You don't need a weight lift. Sounds like a lot of work. I'm not a gym guy. I grew up playing tennis and tennis in college. I like biking and hiking and rock climbing and yoga and yeah, I was like lifting. No, we can do it. We don't do it better than so there's very specific reasons why guys lose testosterone. So I don't use testosterone restoration therapy the last 20 years nearly like I did maybe when it first came out, how important it was, because you get things like electromagnetic fields drop testosterone production. Cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth is everywhere, but we can kind of minimize some of that. Low in red blood cell zinc, not serum zinc, but the zinc in red blood cells is showing us, and this kind of goes with several things, including gut disruption, can't get zinc out of your food. Low red blood cell zinc makes it hard to make testosterone. High ferritin, iron stores, accumulating toxic levels of iron, detox issue too, like gut, right? And cortisol are kind of the big four that drop testosterone production. So you create the calm by getting rid of excess ferritin. Maybe say, hey, go donate blood once or twice. Get rid of that excess iron stores. Go to Red Cross, give away some blood. Let's start zinc. Now we want to heal the gut so you start absorbing it eventually, right? And then keep your cell phone out of your front pocket, that kind of a thing. And
Yep.
their testosterone will be, let's say 180. 270 is but I've seen under 200, of course. They're up 200 points by 3 months. Another 3 months, they're up to like 640.
Wow.
Look how easy that was. And no weightlifting. Like, oh yeah, the body's so smart at fixing this stuff. It's a lot easier to fix this stuff, prevent this stuff, I think, than people give it credit for. But if you really go out to these really big root causes like the infections, the toxicity, the gut, the cortisol, the vitamin deficiencies, hormone imbalances, deficiencies, you go right there. Really, the body's in a position to fix everything else. I see a lot of people, we live in a society where medical people, traditionally trained, it's like one pill for an ill, one pill for one ill. But then when we start doing supplements, a lot of times, even though people are really getting wise in how this stuff happens, they're still using like one supplement for one ill. And I go, okay, well, that's okay. At least it's not a medication with tons of side effects, right? But they're still missing these central mechanisms. And I tend to find it's the infections that people miss, or if they test, they don't get rid of it the right way, and it never goes away. This is a product out of Canada that's called pH structured silver solution. That's an absolute game changer in getting rid of these infections that drive chronic disease, a nano silver product. But the structured water, which they call the fourth phase of water, gets rid of inflammation and helps damaged tissue heal all at the same time. And it's like, cool, it gets rid of inflammation and helps damaged tissue heal. That sounds spectacular. And you create this calm and you do this gut restoration stuff. One particular combo that I like that fixes the gut in a way that fixes everything, including originally it was shown to get rid of the autoimmune gut issues like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, but then Harvard Journal of Psychiatry says, hey, it gets rid of major depressive disorder. Psych Journal, this other one, hey, it changes personality types. People become more outgoing and more social. Hey, it's a nuclear weapon against obesity and diabetes. I did all these videos that, hey, this is what prevents breast cancer too. Look at all these articles. Is vitamin D daily, probiotics daily, and the use of something called butyrate. And butyrate is made by the good bacteria in the gut called the short chain fatty acid, comes in capsule form. But it fixes the gut in the way that allows you to fix everything. And so I use that combo on so many people, the vast majority, because it fixes the way everything goes, including because of the problem that needs to be corrected is in the gut, even though every cell in our body has a vitamin D receptor. So every cell needs vitamin D. The vitamin D receptors become resistant to vitamin D. So we can have all the vitamin D in the world, can't find a place to attach, almost like we don't have vitamin D. Well, it turns out the gut has more vitamin D receptors than any other body part. So they go, oh man, the gut must really need vitamin D because look at all this receptors, okay? But they become resistant. Good bacteria in the gut go down, bad guys go up. The gut actually will start creating its own inflammation. And you might hear people talk about the gut can become this engine of inflammation, make its own inflammation. The gut stops making specific proteins to keep bad bugs away. This is where we get gut infections and dysbiosis and all this kind of stuff. And so, but when you fix it with the triad, foundational triad, daily vitamin D, daily probiotic, daily butyrate, it fixes that in that way. And then this is like, oh my gosh, it fixes everything, including genes, epigenetics, the things that turn on and off genes. And we all have bad genes, we all got good genes. But when you get this stuff, you turn on the bad, turned off the good, right? So this is where anything that works through epigenetics, like actually butyrate, works almost exclusively through epigenetics. Meditation and getting out in nature, that works through epigenetics. But when vitamin D hits the vitamin D receptor, that's sensitive, it makes something called a vitamin D responsive element, a protein that goes to other genes and turns them on and off, including it will turn off all the genes that predispose to type 1 diabetes and all the genes that predispose to autism all at the same time. Wow. So this vitamin D receptor resistance that you fix with the foundational triad is like, oh my gosh, that is like a super central mechanism, including turning off all the genes that predispose to things nobody wants, right? But then you're fixing the brain and the immune system and the gut. And so I think that's something that you don't hear talked about enough. And it is such a big central mechanism. That's why, like Hashimoto's TPO antibodies, 480, 240, 137, 89, 54, that kind of steady progression that you get. And when people get flares of any autoimmune disease, including Hashimoto's, the first thing I think of is there's a bad bug in the gut. Usually candida, some kind of yeast, is so easy to get in. So if I see Hashimoto's antibodies go up between blood tests, I go, oh, I think there's a bad bug in your gut. If somebody goes, I feel like I'm in a flare, bad bug in the gut, instantly I put them on something called grapefruit seed extract twice a day for 6 weeks. They'll get rid of any bad bug in the gut fast. 6 weeks is really fast for these bugs that create chronic disease. And
do you do that as drops?
You can. It comes in capsule form too.
Okay.
Either way. And even some of the fungal species, the candida species, for example, that are really, really stubborn to get rid of, it'll get rid of them, and it'll get rid of them fast. And the flare is over quick because we don't like people to be flared up, right? It's like, that stinks. I'm nervous joints or Hashimoto's and all this kind of stuff. But I don't even check a digestive stool analysis on those people. I'm like, oh, you have to have a bad bug in the gut. And this stuff, there's no downside to grapefruit seed extract. And if you go, oh, I started, I feel better, we go, yeah, okay, that confirmed our suspicion. And I'm not sure I can remember the last time when a flare happened that it didn't help, because that's just kind of how things work. And then you go, okay, well, we got still some improvement in this immune system to keep away infections, and got to heal the gut a little bit better, not to let those bad dudes back in again. But at least we got you out of that flare quick, and we'll keep doing our work so that hopefully we get you so well that that stops happening, never happens again. And that's part of the locking them in place with a healthy gut, healthy immune system for long-term health.
Wow. We've covered a lot of stuff. Dr. Bilstrom, thank you so much. If somebody's listening, what is like the one thing you want them to take away from this episode if they can only remember one thing?
You got to get rid of the infections with this product out of Canada, because it's the Epstein-Barr virus, the mycoplasma, the herpes virus 6. Those are the kind of dudes that get to the thyroid and create the Hashimoto's. And you're never going to turn this around. You're never going to prevent the flares. You're never going to prevent other autoimmune disease unless you get rid of the infection. And this is an absolute game changer, including the structured water portion gets rid of inflammation and helps damaged tissue heal, which is ultimately what you're trying to do, is heal the whole system, get rid of the things that are causing the damage, but then allow the healing to happen.
Right. What's the name of that product and where can they get it?
It's called pH Structured Silver Solution. And you can get it at 10 parts per million as a non-medical person, but you really want to use the 30 parts per million that you can get through physicians.
Okay.
Or if you're an NP, PA, physician, nurse practitioner out there, you can get it as well.
Now, I've seen on Facebook, some people make their own silver water. Is that the same thing, or is that completely different?
I think don't do that. Don't do that. We don't need anybody turning blue. That's why we can't use colloidal silver. And you don't want to make your own colloidal, because this is like night and day difference from colloidal silver. And colloidal is not even strong enough to get rid of these infections that drive chronic disease. Yeah, if you got a UTI, you got something like that, it'll get rid of it in short order, a couple of weeks. Malaria will get rid of it in a couple of weeks. But truly, this nano silver is the one that's going to get rid of the infections that drive chronic disease. They're just way too stubborn to use that other kind of silver to get rid of them.
Okay, cool. Dr. Bilstrom, where can people connect with you and learn more?
So my website is drdavidbilstrom.com. And I have courses for non-medical people. I have courses for medical people to teach them all about this stuff. Lots of blogs, lots of videos, and non-woo perspective that I come from. I'm usually going to say in a video, hey, this is what this journal of that said, including, this is why this stuff prevents breast cancer. Look at these 3 articles and all this other kind of stuff. So people really understand this is the science, not just someone's opinion.
Great. Awesome. I'll have those links down in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. And standard disclaimer, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any questions or concerns with your healthcare professional. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Products mentioned are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.